I'm Andy Parkin, Managing Director of the multi-award-winning Screed. Thank you very much for your question, Matt. I'm very sorry to hear that you're experiencing some problems with your Screed. And your question was, I have recently had a Screed laid, and at the time the builders laid it, I told them that they had not laid the insulation well, as it was rocking in many places. They assured me that this was not an issue. However, now the Screed has been laid and is roughly 6 months later, the Screed is cracking all over the place. Should I be concerned, and how would I fix that? There's an old adage in the sort of screeding industry that the Screed is only going to be good enough as the substrate that it's going to be laid onto. So be it that it's going onto concrete, be it that it's going onto insulation. And I think as you've identified, if you've got a rocking Screed, then that doesn't leave a suitable substrate for the Screed. So the Screed is going to derive some of its strength, especially flexurally. Because if you think of a Screed, it's got generally very good compressive strength, but then when it becomes long and thin, the flexural strength isn't as strong as it is compressive. So its ability to resist that kind of movement really depends on what the substrate is and the strength. Not only of the insulation. The insulation needs to be of a certain compressive strength itself, because that can compress. And if there's any movement, any rocking in there over time, it could be that the Screed ends up failing, because it is very thin, effectively. So it does totally rely. So when the insulation is laid, before the insulation is laid, the substrate should be checked that it's clean. So any sort of mortar snots, anything that's on the surface needs to be removed and scraped. So it needs to be nice and clean. If there is a membrane that's going down on top of the substrate, so on top of the concrete or blocks or beams, whatever it is that it's going onto, if there's a membrane there, to make sure that the membrane is nice, smooth, that you're not creating a multiple of folds where you could get some instability with the insulation. So if you've done that, hopefully there shouldn't be any points where the insulation could rock. If you've identified anything, the thing is to actually take them out. So either take them out if you've got a raised area in the concrete. It may be that you've got to grind, or possibly you've got to use a repair mortar, just to make it a flat surface that will actually accommodate the insulation itself. So certainly rocking is going to lead to instability, is going to lead to potential failures, and you've experienced exactly that. The insulation should be laid very tight, buttered joints. It should be laid in rows that are then opposite, so the joints aren't all lined up. So you should be looking for where obviously it's alternate, where the joints are. And good practice is to always tape the joints as well, so that creates a more stable substrate for it to go onto. So I think by the sounds of it, you've not had that. I think your worst fears have come to fruition, and you've got an issue now where the Screed is cracking. Now, it's very difficult to say whether the Screed should be taken out, because you could repair those cracks. But if you've got issues underneath, potentially, it may not resolve that. So yes, you may be able to repair, You may be able to use a repair mortar, an epoxy resin, a low viscosity resin that you could pour into there that will repair those cracks. If you've got isolated areas, you can actually stitch the cracks as well to add some stability. But if you've still got movement, if you've still got issues with the substrate, then you're probably just storing up those problems. So yes, you may repair them and it may solve the problem for a short while, but I think you're going to be then revisiting those issues further along the line. And it's not just the screed, it's the floor coverings. If you're using ceramics, or you're sticking anything to the surface, then that's going to cause problems. So I think you've really got to deal with the issues that are there. So it sounds certainly a classic that the substrate's not right, the insulation isn't right, and it could well be that it needs pulling out and addressing, rather than just trying to kind of stick a sticky plaster over it and just solve it for a short while until it fails again. So there are some repair solutions, but whether it is the actual solution to your problem to actually repair the screed, it's when it's the substrate that's the actual problem. I'm sure the screed is probably is absolutely fine, isn't a problem. It's the substrate that is. So it's addressing the substrate, and without removing the screed, you can't address that substrate. You may have got some settling now, and maybe the insulation has settled, but I think it'd just be a best guess at that. And probably the only way to truly know what's going on is to remove the screed. You could perhaps remove it in a selected area and then take a look at what's happening, and it'll probably give you a better idea then of what's happening elsewhere as well. So I hope that helps, Matt. We're here to assist and to help with advice. If you need repairs or screeding, we're here to help, and just good luck with the project.